So welcome to our webinar number 2 in our nonprofit all-inclusive international Key Action 2 partnership project. The webinar number 2 is dedicated to several topics combined in one cool presentation. This is about non-formal education. This is about Erasmus world in general, Erasmus Plus program values and priorities, and Erasmus Plus program opportunities. This meaning different project options. What are the differences in between them? What could be the possibilities for granting? And today's expert with us is coming from Latvia, Stanislavs Babins. He is a non-formal education trainer, working also with our national agency, and also he's a board member of one cool non-governmental organization, Radi Vidi Pats. So the floor is yours, Stas, and you can also say some more words about you and enjoy using the rest of 1.5 hours. In the end, we will have time for questions. One small remark about questions. In case you have questions in Latvian, it is better if you write them in chat, and then I'm going to read and translate them into English so that our translation channel is working correctly. Questions in English can be asked directly, loudly. Thank you. Let's go.
Okay. Hello, dear people. It's a pleasure to be with you here and to share everything what I'm passionate about in professional and as well in just human way. Non-formal world of Erasmus Plus. It's our title, but it will be 1.5 hour of sharing things. What is actual is non-formal. In terms of education, in terms of learning, in terms of working with young people and with people in general, and different opportunities for development, for growth, for addressing needs, which is which I called it Erasmus Plus here, but actually we will speak about 2 programs. It will be as well possibility to check another program of European Union, which is European Solidarity Corps. And before we start, just a bit about structure. We will start with defining what is non-formal education, see what are the features of non-formal education, and what is why we are speaking about it and applying it, and how it's connected to the objectives of our organization, as well objective of the program, which is supporting youth work on a European level. And then we go to the programs, to the structure of a program, and see how it's could be used in your work and with your communities and with your target groups. So a few words about myself. Kristina already mentioned that my name is Stanislavs Babins. I have more than 20 years of experience with non-formal education, and my journey started in 2004 when I first attended non-formal education training for volunteers who are going abroad to do things. And at that moment, it was a life-changing experience for me. I discovered that education and learning actually different things. All my life till that moment, I was somehow taught and thought that you need education in your life. And I have an inner conflict in school and in informal education systems that on one hand, I was super curious and super keen on discovering new things, and I like this learning process and development process. However, the system which was designed there from a state, from a formal point of view, was not supporting fully my desire of discovering, and not really tailor-made to my needs. Until the moment I was attending non-formal education experience, I have no clue that alternative systems exist. And in 2004, when I go to this pre-departure training, I found out that it is possible to learn in a different way, in in a way which is learner centered and like and allowed me to choose what I really would like to learn, develop, and discover. Since that time, I am really a passionate advocate for non-formal education, and if from the beginning I was very much saying that this is the best way how to learn, this is what everybody should do, and was very passionate about it. With the time of experience of applying it to helping others to understand how it's could be used, and designing different educational program, I come to the conclusion that yeah, we don't need to distinguish or put on the opposite sides formal and non-formal education. Actually, it could be really complementary processes, system structures which supports learning in a lifelong process of development and acknowledging things of any human. So to start this journey of non-formal education, I was invited to found a a non-government organization, Radi Vidipats, together with 10 other young people at that time who was very concerned and curious about possibility of volunteering, environmental education, and as well non-formal education experiences and intercultural learning. And with establish NGO to use opportunities what at that time a program of European Commission was called Youth was providing, and it's a successor of Erasmus Plus actually. And then I start to think what I can do as a professionally, and how can I combine my passion for this for the learning together with with the things which can help me to sustain myself. And I found out that there is a possibility to be a non-formal education trainer, a person who can facilitate, guide, plan, structure, and support learning process of individuals and the groups in different settings with different topics, but focused really on the development process of young people, and developing holistically different competences needed in life to do. So I start to develop myself in this way and become a non-formal education trainer. And already now for like around 15 years, I am one of the people in our organization who is organizing non-formal education experiences, and as well helping Latvian National Agency of International Youth Programs to deliver trainings on different topics. Non-formal is things which for me help to go through this lifelong process. And if people ask me who I am, usually I usually say, and how old I am, usually I'm saying that I'm not so young enough to know everything. When I was starting my journey in 2004, I knew everything. I knew everything about education. I knew how to do things, how to organize project. I remember the first training. On the third day of a training, I already was thinking, how can I do better the exercises or the things, and I was wondering from where it comes. I never heard about non-formal education, and already now I can say that I can be a trainer, having no idea how actually complex and not difficult, but you need to think about a lot of details to think. So that time I knew everything. Now I'm not so young to know everything. But for sure, the key insight from that time stays with me, and it's really, I truly believe that learning it's a long process, and it could be facilitated by different environments, methods, people, systems, and it could be done in a combination. No, so it's different constellation that happens. This it's true about me, and as well about learning in general. So non-formal education is something what I focused, and I'm really curious about it, and I would like to share some definitions or key principles. How you can say that the process is non-formal, like learning process is non-formal, and and how it could be defined. For a long time, there was no common definition of non-formal education. So since 2000, it's become part of program which providing fundings in the field of use, and this non-formal component was present. But however, in every call for a project, in every toolkit what was developed at that time, definition differs. There was no common. It was like trying to understand and what is it. However, since 2000. Already 15, we had a lot of experience, a lot of people who practice non-formal education. There was a lot of steering groups and organizations and institutions who were lobbying and promoting non-formal education experiences and trying to as well a bit formalize it and recognize the outcomes, what comes from this practice. And in 2021, Council of Europe made a ticket, a special magazine, which helps those who would like to facilitate non-formal education experiences to learn how to do it. And I think this is one of the best sources where what to read about non-formal education, and then it's very short but consistent definition. What is non-formal education is, and according to this definition, it's a set of activities. Non-formal education activities is very much referred to actions and activities which are planned and structured in a certain programs, which has beginning and the end of activity, and it focus on young people. And these programs are specially designed to improve different competences, which is not covered directly inside the formal education curriculum. So it's really much learner-centered, but with the intention to help people to develop themselves in the way they want to develop and have abilities to develop. Yes, there are certain features of understanding if the program is non-formal or not. And one of the key features of non-formal education that participation in such programs, in such trainings or events is voluntarily. So person should express interest in participating in such. So it should be not forced, it's not obligatory, and it's really based on your will, on your will to participate, to be active to be active learner. So voluntarily basis is one of the feature of a non-formal education. Ideally, it should be accessible to everyone. There should be no prerequisites. The non-formal education programs ideally should be accessible to everyone. However, there are certain limits. You cannot have unlimited group of people attending your program, or there should be but what is important, that criteria should be clear and non-discriminative for every participants to be able to participate. And if there are some barriers or restrictions, so the facilitator or the person who organized non-formal education activity ideally should provide opportunities to reduce these barriers and provide possibility to participate and learn for anybody. So it's non-formal education trainings or event is it's not just we come and do whatever we want, how we feel, or if we voluntarily participate, we start, and at one point we can go out or start again. It's a really organized process, and the main difference from just gatherings or meetings or having a cool time together, which happens as well during the process. It's objectives, and objectives should be educational. They should aim of this program should really be focused on developing competences, enlarging your knowledge, having a possibility to reflect, evaluate, and gain experience in certain areas. So it's really should be focused on learning, no? And it's organized, it's structured, organized, and planned with objective for each activity which is inside the non-formal education event. That's one of the differences from informal learning, when we accidentally learn something. Non-formal education process is learner-centered, contrary to formal education, where you have a curriculum, you have a certain subject, certain indicators how we can measure and trying like objectively evaluate person's learning results. In non-formal education, we put learner in the center. We provide a certain structure with a quite big level of flexibility, and before designing a program, we really check the needs of our target group who will be participating in non-formal education event, and try to like tailor-made a program with thought in mind that the time and the methods what we will use in our non-formal education program will be helping to fulfill this needs of a learner. And what differs as well from formal education experience, that learner is the participants actually themselves. They can influence the flow of the program, and depending on the needs, we can enlarge or we can shrink some part of the program which is structured in a certain flow. And as well, learners are the ones who evaluate what did they learn, no? What kind of results they have. When I plan non-formal education training, for example, we have a certain objective and some expected results. But to what extent and how much it will be reached, or maybe there will be something else reached, it's evaluated in the end by learner, the person who participates in non-formal education activity. All non-formal education events, which is supported by Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps in the youth field, it's regardless the topic, should be focused on four principles, but as well on developing skills and certain set of competences which is needed to be active to become an active participant in a social and community life of the person where he or she is living. So to become to promote and prepare for active citizenship, this could be one of the objective or intention as well for any non-formal educational purposes. Active participation is a key feature of the program. It's learner-centered, it's facilitated by a trainer or a youth worker, but it is required as well that participants are not passive, but they're actively communicating their needs, actively participating and proposing something, and working together as well. And through this process, they are acquiring certain life skills needed, which could be applied in a different professional and personal areas of life. In non-formal education, it's the learning happens on a different levels, but very often it happens in the group and the collective approach where a group or all participants are considered a source of knowledge and a source of rich experience which could be used in this learning process. So it's a key feature of non-formal education experience. You can do some individual non-formal education programs, but it's very rare. Group and the principle of learning to be together is very much embedded in the key features of every non-formal education program, and it's really based on this group learning. But individual process as well is needed. You cannot put participants only for all the time for a group work. There should be time for individual reflection, supporting methods and tools for it, and it should be a combination of this. But very much other people are needed in order to create this non-formal education experiences. Yes, the process of non-formal education is really process-oriented, not too much result-oriented. However, there is expected results for every program. What we do, but we very much focus on the process and try to facilitate it, try to make it diverse as possible, to provide a possibility to learn from different environments, different situations, different people, and addressing not only knowledge, but as well some practical things, and as well working on a level of attitude and behavior. So try to cover it holistically, from different perspectives, and providing possibility to develop in multiple directions. It's very much process oriented, involving group, and a certain dynamic is used in order to facilitate this learning process and provide this opportunity for aha moments, for understanding something, and for as well practicing gained knowledge in real life. Another feature, as I already mentioned, it should be really the program should be really based on the needs of participants. Of course, there is when you organize non-formal education experience, there is a public bodies, organizations, institutions who are organizing it, having their needs as well, and goals, and so, and as well European Commission, when giving money to organizers to make this non-formal education experience, have their objectives, but it should be as well very much checked and based with the needs of participants, and it should be clearly communicated beforehand, so participants can make a voluntary choice to participate, and then to really get the maximum out of this experience. Then this is a must, to have this, to base it on the needs of participants. What else in the program? One of the key features, and I would like to put a bit more attention to this, that non-formal education events are should be very practical. It's the diversity of methods used there should cover basic needs of participants, but as well should be based on action. Yeah, so it's not an educational event when participants are consumers of the it's they're more invited to be co-creators of educational experience, and action is needed for them to have it. And from where it comes from and it's very much based on experiential learning approach, where where you apply and have this experience based on, and then from experience you learn, and then you try to apply for a new experience and situations everything what you learned. But this is, I think, crucial feature what differs from formal curriculum or informal learning, where experience is present, but maybe structure is not really there. And I would like to focus on this approach a bit more, this experiential learning approach, because it's I think one of the core structures, how we design non-formal education program and make it really active, dynamic, and using all the features what I mentioned before. So education could be like what I already mentioned in three different forms. It's like formal, non-formal, and informal, but they are all complementary. Yes, and the idea is not to say which one is better or which one is not really working. Idea is to find a good a balance between approaches and understand for you what is the best, or for your target group what is the best combination of it. Yeah, so idea is that learning happens from birth till death, from beginning till the end. It's long process, and at certain point of a life, the certain systems support this learning in order to make it faster, effective, easier, and and make it actual. No, so it's a combination. Somehow, traditionally in our societies, we have this formal from the beginning of the life. We have a formal system which is very needed in order to form a personality, to help to acquire basic skills for processing knowledge and getting information around. But with the time, it's it could not be enough, and then extra things like non-formal or informal education can come and help, and then it's a matter how you combine it. In my trainings, very often I'm working with young people who already either finish certain formal education processes, or they are inside of it, and it's very often complements everything what we do in non-formal education. Speaking about experiential learning, somehow in the youth field and in the projects which are supported by Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps, it's very much focused on experience and on providing possibility to learn from different experience. And the basis for it, there is one of the model or approaches which was designed in last century, in 70s, by David Kolb, and it's somehow is super popular, and it's just like super useful as well to understand how to structure your learning experience for participants, and make it really non-formal based on experience. And how it works, it has a certain stages which is somehow interconnected between self, and according to Kolb, learning happens not only by doing stuff, but actively reflecting after having certain experience, understanding what realistically was in this experience, then making abstract conceptualization, generalization, and try to apply this knowledge or skills or certain attitudes in a new experience, trying to experimentally check if everything what I get to know from my reflection and observation is actually true and valid for the things to do and to get some results. And it goes like clockwise: experience, reflection, generalization, and then applying things, and then we go into the spiral. But now I have a question: if you look on these 4 steps, where does the learning happens? You can write down maybe in the chat. No, at what stage of the process of learning, process of this experiential learning, when the real learning happens, when we can say, this this is the best stage where I can learn something. So the option 1 is while we are doing something, that's how we like learn the best, or while we're reflecting on what we did, and this is a moment when the learning happens, or when we just extract and generalize, make it universal. That's when we do this process of generalization. That's actually when we learn, or when we take these universal principles and apply into another area, and that's we can say, that's we learn now things. What do you think? When, at what stage the learning happens? Like it's a experiential learning cycle, but when it happens, when it's like to say, this is a core point, this we never could miss. If we design educational program, we cannot skip this because the learning happens there actually. I want to check the chat, but I see there are 2 things written. Okay, and there is a consensus, in our chat. I see that reflection is the key moment, So then we do something, and then we start to think about what we do, and then this analysis of the actually help us to understand what was done good, what can you take from it, and then it's true. Without reflection, it will be really just a series of experience, or we will stay on the fun part. If we organize non-formal education event and don't plan a time for reflection, we will just be playing games, having fun together, and maybe accidentally through the dialogue, through the some thought process, we will do reflection. People do reflection, but if it's not structured, it will be informal learning. We will just provide an environment and a bit of invitations to try out new things. But if we don't reflect and actually check what happened and what can we learn from it, we don't ask this question, this will be not like fully learning experience. However, Kolb say it's not the only moment where the learning happens. Actually, according to Kolb, learning starts and it happens whenever you put attention to learning, when you consciously decide that you need to learn something, when you put attention to it at any moment of this learning cycle, learning can happen. And you don't need to start with experience. You don't need to provide just hands-on experience. You can start with theory, and then with the concepts, you can start learning by checking other experiences and then applying to your realities. You can start with reflecting on something which you did very long time ago, or which you maybe not experience, but you observe that others experience. If you put attention and intention to learn and discover something this will be as well a learning point which start and bring you to the cycle. So the full cycle is it's like complements each other, and it can start at any point of this. So when you design a program for non-formal education, very often people, trainers, youth workers follow this pattern. They do something together, then we analyze, then we generalize, and we apply new. But you can as well mix it, and you can start with with providing a theory or a different general conclusion, find moments in your reality where you can apply them, try it out, and then go to analysis. Or you can start with with analysis and go to the theory, and learning still be there. So it's when you start focusing, it's then it happens. But this is a concept which is very much used in non-formal education programs when you design it, and it's I'm putting it now because for me it helps very much to remember what we do and not to stick only with a cool interactive fun part, or not just to dig into the like reflections and then generalizations, but to try to combine it and create bridges, to build the bridges and to connect the dots. When the program is designed, ideally it would be nice that there is a certain flow happening, and how to create the flow, it could be this pattern, which make it which makes this experience like not fragmented, but unite. Okay, a short intro for non-formal education experience is done, but key features you notice, but maybe you have some questions for actually about what you heard, because later we will go for programs and opportunities to fund non-formal education experience and to create them with the help of Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps. But maybe you have questions now. You can open a microphone to ask, or you can write down in the chat. No? Okay, in the end of the presentation, there will be a possibility still to ask about non-formal education, but if nothing comes now, let's go and see what kind of opportunities are there where you can get funding for creating non-formal education experiences, or where it's actually asked for. So I will speak and just shortly introduce two programs, which is supported financially by European Commission. Every year they provide a budget for it, and and it's two big programs which is used by youth workers and non-formal education trainers in the youth work, and where non-formal and informal education is a key feature as well of the program. So funding comes from our tax money. So everything what we pay and what countries pay to the budget of European Union, it's basically, divided into programs. And one of the first program is Erasmus Plus, a huge program of education focusing on supporting providing support for professional and personal development in formal, non-formal, informal training, and as well in the field of youth and sport inside Europe and beyond, and as well focusing on promoting European values, European identity, and active citizenship, and as well inviting people to innovate, to find creative solutions for different challenges what our communities and societies are facing. facing, including the challenges of climate change and how we can make a transition to sustainable economy, sustainable circular economy, for example. But this is a huge program, and youth field is just one part of where where it's possible to get funding for your program or for your target groups. If you work with them and want to do non-formal education experience, this is one of it. But it's not only for young people, but as well for youth workers and educators and academic world, and as a possibility for students and teachers and to develop their competences in professional and personal fields. But we will focus as well on the second program to see combination and how it will be complemented if you strategically start to working with your target groups, with young people. And the European Solidarity Corps is a much smaller in terms of financing program, but however, impact on the personal life of young people could be even bigger because it supports volunteering abroad and in country, and it focuses on providing possibilities for young people to engage in different solidarity activity, mainly on volunteering, but as well on different local actions of solidarity with aim to make connection between countries and people stronger, to promote solidarity, democracy, European values, identity, active citizenship, and addressing actual challenges on spots for a community. So this is as well could be complementary, so we can combine two programs in our work with people, and giving them a chance to develop themselves holistically and become active citizens who can not only become a passive consumer, but active co-creator as well of our reality, what we experience. And there is a different policies under the decision of giving money to such program, to such objectives. And one of the main policy, what is now developed, and now in it's a European youth strategy, EU strategy, which is valid till 2027, which was developed in cooperation with youth sector, with young people, with NGO who is working, with policymakers, with institutions who are administrating and supporting the youth field. And it's from 2019 to 2027, but every year it's revised, checked, monitored, and a bit updated. But for this 8 years or 7 years, when it's in the main slogan or main action words is this three ones: connect, engage, empower. Basically, everything what is done with the support of these two programs, Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity, should help to connect, to engage, and to empower young people. If we're speaking about field of youth, and so what actually we understand about this like big words, big terms, or connection. It's basically with the help of a project, with the money which is funded by this program, organizations are invited to create opportunities for young people to experience different non-formal education experience in forms of exchange or civic action, or foster different cooperation possibilities, firsthand in European context, but as well beyond. It's possible to go outside as well of the world. Engage, it's one of the main aim of this word is to help to foster participation of young people in every aspect of our civic, economic, social, and culture and political dimensions of our life. Yeah, and it's really focused on democratic processes, starting from explaining how democracy works, experiencing it in life, and as well providing different support for social and civic engagements. Yeah, and it's not only invited to speak, but as well practice and provide certain resources in order to eliminate barriers and ensure that everybody can have an opportunity to take an active part in our in society. So its engagement is very fun, and then empowering as well with this strategy and with the funds under these two programs. Yeah, we are aiming to support youth work in all its forms as a main reason, a main catalyst for empowerment of young people across Europe. So young people can, truly, not truly believe that they can make a change, that they are able to contribute and to co-create Europe in this sense. So three main keywords are actually it's a basis for the funding for two programs, and it's in every program guide of the program you can read a short description how it's understood by European Commission, and as well on what focus we should put on every year. Every year is change a bit, and the European Youth Strategy is available online on the European Commission website. If you just write in your browser European Youth Strategy, you immediately find it. It's very, very easy. It's not a lot of pages to read, but it's if you are planning to use funding opportunities of Erasmus Plus or European Solidarity Corps, have a look at it. Yeah, so it's could be very inspiring to see what we agreed to strategically to promote and to foster. Alongside with European Youth Strategy, we have several other strategies or goals, which is set in cooperation with young people in the field of youth, and as well much like other agendas on the European level, which influence the decision making on budget division. But I just mentioned a few of them here, which is worth to mention. It's 11 youth goals, which is designed by young people and for the young people, and it's actually help you to orientate what is young people would like really to change, to do, and to reach in nearest future. In 2018, it was declared, and now we're following the implementation of these goals, how we can reach them, and it's embedded in the European Youth Strategy altogether. There are 11 of them, and now I think we have even midterm evaluation report, how we are progressing with these youth goals. But if you write a project under any of these two programs, youth goals are very I would say it's the first point where you check in with the needs of young people who are involved and for whom you are doing non-formal education experience. It's really done by young people in a process called structured dialogue. For 1.5 years, like more than 50,000 young people were coming in different constellations, forums, events, discussing with decision makers what is needed to be done. And then the final result, we have these 11 goals with indicators, with sub-goals, with aims and objectives. And now it's really used as a policy document. So if you are new to in the youth field, this is two documents which you need to check. A recent one from 2021, we have a youth participation strategy as one of the objective is to foster an active participation, there was a lot of question how we can get motivated young people to become active citizens, how we can address political contents in the youth work, how we can make it more interested how we can bring more interest of young people in a civic engagement in different forms of participation in our society. And that's why we have a strategy now, which comes not only with a strategic approach for all the organizations in Europe, but as well with the tools and even with a special support center which do researches and monitoring and organizing different training and partnership building activities for organizations in order to foster this participation. So it's another new strategy which is now is pretty much actively used, and we try to fulfill it. And as well, there are several more policies like European, like EU Green Deal, so-called. It's an ambitious plan of Europe till 2050 to reduce our CO2 emission and to stop contributing for a climate change in negative way. Or there is a Horizon missions, which help to develop infrastructure and bring new technologies and ideas into the life of Europeans on this planetary scale. And the programs are like European Solidarity Corps and Erasmus are meant there to contribute as well. But I didn't put all the policies there. In every program guide, it's actually the first 2 pages is usually dedicated to inform you why we're spending this money and which decisions we are trying to fulfill and follow. But these ones are one of the mains, which is as well useful to check for you if you decide to use these opportunities, funding opportunities from these 2 programs of European Union. We have 2 programs, and now it will be a short intro about structure, how the program is structured. And I really would like to focus on the youth field, because if to go through all like 500 pages of the program guide, 1.5 hours is really not enough. But for us, for now, just an intro structure point, how I usually explain for myself and as well for those who are participating in the project writing, for example, training courses. The structure of Erasmus is simple and complex at the same time. Simple, it's in the terms that it's divided in 3 key actions. We call it KA1, KA2, KA3, key action 1, 2, and 3. And it's really focus on the different aspects of why it's like this of action. The first key action, which is one of the biggest action, and it's really a lot of money is dedicated and is there. It's focused on mobility of individuals. Mobility is one of the key feature of the program. It's it's encourage and provide a means and resources for young people, for youth workers, for those who are supporting youth work, qualitative youth work. So you can get like resources to go and meet other either peers or other youth workers or your colleagues, and yeah, a big part of the money go for this mobility to ensure that it's the exchange of experience, of ideas, of approaches is happening. So there is yeah, mobility of individuals. It's a general term. And then based on what you are focusing, what kind of individuals do you need to move, and their mobile, then you can have it. So it's very often yeah, it's international and intercultural experience in every of the project type is happening. On the first action, how we ensure individual mobility of individuals, in the youth field, one of the most famous youth mobility projects are youth exchanges. Yes, with the green one, youth exchanges are very famous. A lot of people experience it. It's a relatively easy type of project. It's limited from 5 to 21 day. Yeah, it could be minimum 2 countries should participate, but it could be as well a complex youth exchange up to 21 day with I think 8 countries maximum, and then you can have up to 60 participants having an intercultural youth exchange where young people come and on a certain topic of interest, they have a non-formal education experience, which is designed with the help of facilitator, of a youth worker, and but done and initiated by young people themselves. This is a cool entry point, and many organizations and young people who would like to use opportunities use it. No? So youth exchanges is very famous mobility project type of mobility project. Another type is youth participation projects, which has this international dimension. However, the focus is on active participation, on active citizenship, of promotion of European values and involving young people into the decision making. It could be done in a similar form as a youth exchange when you meet 2 groups or 3 or 4 groups of young people and having different possibilities to discuss and exchange opinions, ideas, and experiences. But the key feature here is that it's very much, this type of project is very much encouraging local actions, local involvement, activities, events, and it could be done as well only locally. No? So it's if youth exchange, you cannot be done just in your country. It should be with involvement of others. Here is quite a wide range of possibilities, but the main difference is that it's really focused on participation, on civic engagement, on political participation, on not political, but yeah, like more like democratic way of life. No, so it's where political participation could be one of it, but it is not supporting, for example, political parties. Yeah, political parties cannot apply for this funding in order to use money to fund their youth political party organization. Yeah, this is more for young people to understand how the democratic system in Europe or in your countries is working, how the decisions are being made, what kind of impact can young people have when the decisions are done on different levels, from your school and community and municipality till European Parliament. No, so everything about how political system works, how how to initiate something and find a way to make inclusive decisions on different levels. This is everything about youth participation. Another part of Key Action 1, which is very famous, is youth worker mobilities. It's not focused anymore on young people. If here in the youth exchange, in the youth participation, there is a minimum entry level for participants is in youth exchange 13 years. Yes, from 13-year-old young people already can participate in activities. So here in youth worker mobility, it's only for like 18 plus, and there is no other, like no age limit. So it's unlimited in age from 18 till 99 plus. And in the youth exchange, there is a limit of 30 years. If you are 31, you cannot participate in the youth exchange as a participant. However, you can become a facilitator of a youth exchange. You can be a support person, assistant. You can be as well a group leader for a youth exchange. But participant, you are not eligible. For youth worker mobility, it's designed for youth workers, and it's actually a lot of non-formal education events, trainings, seminars, partnership building activities, job shadowing, exchanges of experiences, and so on happens under this mobility. One of the main objectives of this action is to increase quality of youth work in general and to provide opportunities for youth workers to develop their youth working competences. There is a special model even for it now designed, and a tool which called Youth Pass is as well now pretty much tailored for youth workers experience documentation. And under these mobilities, yes, you can help your colleagues, your co-workers, your youth workers, people who work with youth, to develop themselves and to stay involved and with all actual information. Youth worker mobilities, comparing to youth exchange, have a bigger budget. Half bigger budget, but it's much more requirements for a quality of this kind of mobility of a project. Newcomers could organize a training course for youth worker or a different like study visits or what. However, it requires a bit of experience, which you can gain by becoming a partner for this youth worker mobility, helping to co-organize with experience organization, or just slowly trying out with maybe not the full opportunity use, but just a small scales educational events, and then develop. But what is needed to know here is that it should be based on the needs, and it should really contribute to development of competences and increasing quality of youth work. There are 3 types of these projects, which are the basis for Key Action 1, mobility of individuals. However, with the time of using this program and previous programs, there is some improvement coming comparing from previous program. And now in Erasmus Plus, we have a possibility for strategically planning your work for those organizations who are already have experience and get involved in this type of activities, and using projects as a tool in the youth work. There is a possibility to get accreditation where you can submit your strategic like mid-term or long-term plan for working with youth and for using youth exchanges, youth participation projects, or youth mobilities, youth worker mobilities, for achieving some goals or results in the youth field in your organization, in a more like stable and effective way. And accreditation is a separate activity. It's like ensuring that there is a certain quality of activities and certain succession, no? That you not just doing projects because there is an opportunity. You don't have this opportunistic approach, but you have more strategic approach. And then accreditation for those organizations who thinking in the long term and having this a plan, it's very helpful, and it requires a bit of work in the beginning for getting this accreditation. And in some countries, it's actually if there is a high, high level of high numbers of organizations applying, there could be a limits that national agency can say that we cannot have more than 100 accredited organization. Then there is limited, but in Latvia I think we don't have yet limits on it. Anyway, you go through this process, and then every year you can apply for funding according to your plan, and you receive based on priorities and based on overall funding and how many other organizations apply, more or less equal amount of money which we can use in order to fulfill your strategic plan of a youth work. And it saves a lot of time for applying every time for different finances, and it helps just to ensure that there is a uninterrupted, not very fragmented learning experience for young people in the long term if you are working with such groups. So, but it's not obligatory to do accreditation. You still twice a year you can, or sometimes 3 times a year you can, no, twice a year now, you can apply for a funding as well individually. What is cool and encourage, and I think this is as well, for example, for youth exchange, it's very much encouraged that young people themselves form a group or organization or join some organization and apply themselves and see how it's possible to implement their ideas and get the money and plan everything and implement and create a cool educational experience. And so the possibility for young people to become more independent, this is a very cool. Youth participation or youth exchanges is done. Youth worker mobility requires a legal body, public body, organizations, and ideally that it's not only done with one leading organization, but in cooperation with others, with partners who have the similar needs. That brings us to a separate action of Erasmus program, which called Key Action 2, and it's really focused on cooperation among organization and institution. It has much bigger budget for activities, for projects, and it really focused on cooperation. There are not so much individuals involved, but really organizations and institutions. And the budget for the project is bigger. However, the division of the budget, majority goes to Key Action 1, and for Key Action 2, the slice of a budget is relatively small. However, still big enough in order to try out and to, if you have this need and you really see yourself in developing cooperation between with your partners and creating a qualitative non-formal education experiences, then there is a possibility for you to focus on three things. On a partnership, so you can establish a partnership and then really spend the money on really fostering it, make it stronger, create a trust inside, and having for 2 or 3 years even this type of activity, which is regularly can provide means and resources for to keep this partnership alive and stronger. And it could be and it's encouraged. It's not only between organizations, but involving like cross-sectoral cooperation and partnership from institutions, governmental municipalities, organizations, businesses, which is so like socially not responsible, but suddenly I forgot this word. Social entrepreneurship. It's possible to involve different actors. Universities as well can be partnering with organizations here. So different constellations and different actions could be supported by this Key Action 2 projects under the partnership. Another type is or focus is capacity building, really to have a set of different educational events together with your partners, which is focused on increasing the capacity of involved organizations. And in the field of youth, it's really focused on with aim to increase quality of youth work, or it's as well could be focused on innovation, developing new approaches, methods, or types of technologies, which is helping to increase quality of youth work and as well to address changes what happens with generation change, with new global situation. So innovation, it could be one of the focus for this type of a project. What is interesting for newcomers, and it's specially designed, this type of a project, it's a small scale partnership projects, which are really designed for newcomers, those who would like to try out with a simplified budget line, and it's based on a lump sum. Many of the fundings in Erasmus Plus is based on a lump sum, but this is in Key Action 2 the entry point for newcomers, where you can relatively short amount of time can try out how your ideas or your partnership or your innovative approaches is really working out. Try to develop something together, and you don't need to commit for a huge amount of money. In this case, we are speaking about 30 or 60,000 euro a budget for 2 years. From 1 to 2 years. And then a third one, Key Action 3, it's support for policy development and cooperation. It's relatively small budget part for this one, but it's as well very important. And from this money, from this part of the budget is everything what is needed in order to support development of the policies, evaluation, researches connecting to the youth field is happening. And there is one project type which is done on the European level, European Youth Together, it's called, and it's for organizations to a big, I would say, pan-European organizations to connect grassroots movements and with aim to reach maximum different young people from different areas in order to bring them and activate them and involve in the decision-making process and development and of different policies which concern connecting to the youth. It's not very popular organization, pretty specific and focused. The most popular are Key Action 1, where young people themselves can, and youth organizations as well, can really use public money in order to develop their ideas and cover their learning needs. And then cooperation in Key Action 2 on different levels is very much used. what is cool in Erasmus, we have specifically a new type of a project which goes under key action 1. It's a mobility of individuals. However, if in all previous types of a project, non-formal education experience is really encouraged, asked, and if you apply for it, you need to describe how you use it. Then in Discover EU, it's a pure informal education experience where learning can happen accidentally and depends on many factors. And it's really based on a simple thing. And it's only for those who reach 18 years. Every citizen or every resident of European Union, if you reach 18 years, you can apply for a lottery to win a possibility to travel around Europe, basically have a train ticket for 1 month, and then just discover EU, discover European Union without any other structure, hidden agenda and purpose. However, there is a certain structure for support for young people to go abroad. There is national agencies who are helping to prepare those who are going for such trip. There is organizations who are using this opportunity in order to promote and activate young people and get involve them into the different youth activities. And it has this component of luck. So not all the young people win this, but everybody have opportunity to participate, and there is a budget for young people to try to do it. What is it's really based on travel and mobility. You activate by and promoting as well mobility not by air, by plane, but by trains and buses. Also on land mobility as well, showing that it is possible and it's not so difficult actually in Europe to travel by land. Another type is so if it's for everybody, but however there are some people with a fewer opportunities who are not even consider that they can even participate in lottery because they're afraid of traveling, they don't speak other language, they maybe come from with a hard background or certain disabilities or many other factors which exclude them from this opportunity. That's why there is a separate project type called Discover EU Inclusion, which allows organizations who work with young people with fewer opportunities to apply together with these young people directly for funding, and then organization receive fundings in order to organize such travel with a lot of support and maybe a bit smaller time frame, but still focused on really traveling, moving from one country to another and discovering and embark on adventure, discovering different aspects of European Union through just traveling. So this is a cool opportunity for those organizations who are working with such young people. And then education here is really informal. You organize environment, you provide support system, but you don't have any specific learning objectives. But you are encouraged to do it, and a good youth worker all the time thinking how to use this experience and later reflect on it, generalized, and help young person to continue to develop themselves. Okay. So if Erasmus Plus is really like supporting this youth field very much and focus on the quality of youth work and provide opportunity for to develop, and it's quite limited short-term experiences. Then Solidarity Corp is really focusing on the long-term experiences of living abroad, contributing with providing opportunity for volunteers to contribute with their skills, time, and what is happening? And energy to no, yes, this one. To everything. So it's yeah, it's very much focused on high solidarity activity. Volunteering is one of the main example where solidarity could be experienced, and but as well on other type of activity on international local level. Volunteering is a it's an invitation for young people to join, and they can do it long term, short term, individual, or together with others. And to do it, you need to register and apply and have a generally motivation to go abroad and be open for working and living for a longer time in different communities. For organization, it requires a process of ensuring quality for hosting and supporting volunteers, and there is a quality label process needed before you can be using the money of European Solidarity Corps for organizing such volunteering activities. However, there is another type which youth workers and young people can use in order to develop their ideas and address societal and different other challenges in their communities. Is a solidarity projects, which is relatively simple and small scale projects focused on solidarity on a local level in different forms and topics. But this is similar to youth participation projects. It could be done by young people for the community, and this one is on local level only. You don't need to go outside, but yes, very popular type of a project, simple budgeting and then easy to implement. And there is another type of volunteering what is possible to do for those who are young professionals and want to get involved in humanitarian aid volunteering. A separate action there, and from time to time there is a call for volunteering teams in high priority areas. Could be centralized or not, but every year it's these priority areas are chosen and done in different way. All these two programs are actually has their the four horizontal priorities, which are equal for both of them, and then few more, which is now somehow highlighted and put it. But this like four is really like horizontal. It goes, these priorities goes through all the project, regardless how big or small it is, how long or short it is, and in any type of action. If you apply for funds, you need to consider how this project actually contributing to inclusion and diversity, how diverse and inclusive are your activity sections, to environment and sustainability, how do you use resources in your project, and it's did you address with your actions environmental challenges, and maybe you have some solutions for it as well. Then how you use digital tools and ensure that digital transformation is happening in any project, and how activities and events of your project contributes to fostering participation in democratic life. So these four horizontal priorities should be present, no, to certain extent, and sometimes you can really thematically focus on these priorities, or you can somehow explain and embed them into the like different activities, regardless what is your topic about. I see that time is over. Oh la la. Should we continue? I have a few more things to tell, and then we can
I think we can have some 5 minutes maybe to finalize. It would be
Yes.
super good also to leave a comment about where can we find all the information. So maybe the link to the guide or the name of the guide where to find information, or also to mention the web pages of national agencies, and then like 2-3 minutes for questions. Okay, so that maximum at 12:40 we could finalize.
Thank you. Yes. I get so passionate about it, and I was not prepared to speak so long, but I really believe in these possibilities, and I use it myself. That's why it takes so much. But horizontal priorities are for both of the programs are there. Don't forget about them. But what I want to say is that what is actual change, what is happening in the program guides of every program, that for example, respect for European values, now it's really highlighted and put it as one of the features of the projects. And if you plan to use funding opportunities of this program, check the European values. And if you are not planning to promote it or really then these programs are not for you. No, so it's not for your organization. And respect for EU values as well. It could be one of the topics which could be addressed in your trainings, youth exchanges, participation projects, and so on. So it's to check. And then what is as well highlighted now as one of the features, like separately with the big letters, that non-formal and informal learning should be a core approach for activities that you organize. It should be based on experience, learner-centered. People should voluntarily participate. It should be possibility for you to recognize and document the learning outcomes with the help of a use pass. And it's really a feature for both of the programs, and it's emphasized very much. And yes, so the in order to make it possible, there is a certain institutions and centers and networks which help to make it come true. And on the national levels, every country has their national agency. In Latvia, it's it's Agency of International Youth Programs, JSPA, Jaunatnes Starptautiskā Programmu Aģentūra. And every country has a different national agency, but you can find all the guides and all the information about calls, opportunities for development, understanding a bit deeper about non-formal education experience, or for every type of a project. There is some often trainings happening, and it's on the web page of Latvian National Agency. I didn't write it down, but maybe on the chat, Kristina can share that it's in Latvia, it's jaunatne.gov.lv, and in English it's as well possible to reach out. But actually, all the information about these programs on the European level you can find on European Youth Forum. Just type it in your browser and you find out all opportunities for organizations and young people there. And there are two keywords as well. If you type them, and you can find, there is a Salto Resource Centers, which is a special centers focused on either priorities or values, which is supported by this program. And the Salto stands for Support Advanced Learning and Training Opportunities for in the field of youth. Salto Youth is the portal where you can find tons of information about every aspect of youth work on European level, and they do as well support trainings, which I recommend to attend if you see that that you want to improve your knowledge or your competences in certain topics. Go for it. And there is a Eurodesk, which is a network of more than 1,000 organizations who can answer on any questions young people have about Europe, about opportunity in Europe, starting from studying, volunteering, ending with employment and possibility to move to other countries, open your business, and find possibilities on how to do it legally, all in legislation. So Eurodesk is as well in every country they have agency who supports it. In our case, it's ESPA who supports Eurodesk, but it's a network, a huge network focused on information providing. If you're young people or you are interested in some specific question and you cannot find it with a search engine, any search engine, go to Eurodesk. Every question could be answered there. And they have some cool campaigns, which happens annually, and they promote possibilities for young people and encouraging them to be mobile, move, and to use opportunities which are there. And another, what is maybe for you will be interesting to know, that there is a group of young people who are becoming ambassadors for promoting such experiencing to peers, and they call themselves Europeers. In many countries, it's informal group of those who already had done either volunteering or different type of youth projects, and they get so passionate about it that there is a certain structure and certain information support where these young people can come together and help to promote opportunities for young people. This I think is a full picture of opportunities. What is available in Europe for young people, but this is two main programs which is very much used. However, it's not the only one. There is for sure different funding opportunities on the national, regional level. In Latvia, for example, it's a state program which supports, or we have different funds, for different causes. But this one is using non-formal education, and if you are keen on it, so please use it. It's could be very useful and beneficial for everybody. Yes. Any questions? Maybe you have.
We have time for one question, maybe. Maybe somebody would like to ask. The question was about your NGO. Maybe you can tell 2 words about Radi Vidi Pats.
Yes. So I have an organization which is based in Liepaja. It's called Radi Vidi Pats, which literally translate create environment yourself. And from it was established in 2005. This year we celebrate 20 years of work. And from the beginning, we was really a bunch of young people who just returned from their volunteering experiences abroad, using, at that time, it was European Voluntary Service Opportunities. Now it's European Solidarity Corps. And we just come and wanted to use these opportunities, establish NGO. It started with youth exchange and then use different partnership opportunities, and with aim to promote non-formal education, volunteering, and activate and tell to young people that actually you can create environment yourself. It's not, you don't need to wait that somebody will do it instead of you, but you can initiate a lot of things. And for 20 years, we are now in Liepaja and in Kurzeme and internationally as well, working pretty much. We try to use the approach of acting local, thinking global. We have a lot of partners all over around, but all our main activity are in Liepaja, in the center of Liepaja. And the latest one, what we are very proud of, we have for 4 years, we have a community garden, which is we try to use as an instrument for promoting democratic involvement of different social groups, including young people, in the garden. But it's not only about gardening; it's about decision making, discussion, about nonviolent communication, and inclusive approach to create inclusive communities. So if you are in Liepaja, come to community garden and visit us. We're happy to meet you, and then you can get inspired and see how we're using this
There
programs.
is additional question to Radividi-Pats, as I understand. If you are going to be involved in Youth Day, is it correct in English? Or maybe you are going to facilitate something for this day.
Yes, this year Liepaja is a capital of youth in Latvia. Radividi-Pats is cooperating with the U Plus, is another organization who is very focusing on youth activization, participation, and involvement. And they are a main NGO who is organizing, and Radividi-Pats is planning to. We are there. We just in the center. We are planning to do as well activities in cooperation with U Plus, but as well with the Youth House, which is there, and I hope I will have some possibility to lead some workshops, but it's not clear yet.
Okay, then I think it's time to finish and to thank all of the people who are joining us today. Thanks a lot, Stas, for a great presentation. Thank you for sharing your contacts here too. So you can reach out to Stas also later on if you're curious, or maybe you would like to cooperate with his organization. Thank you to Irina for being our co-host today. Thanks a lot to our interpreters who are doing a great job. I was following also, so everything is okay.